Hey, and we are here. Finally, the long-awaited English Chaos Knight deep dive with Lewis and me,
Welcome.
Chaos Knight connoisseurs from the first hour. Really have never played anything else, and will
Yeah,
never play
that's
anything
good.
else. Right, Lewis? We're real fluff fanatics when it comes to Chaos Knights.
Hey, who here has actually played Chaos Knights in the Crusade? Okay.
Yes, exactly. We are just crusading through the tournaments. That's it. Yeah, so it was requested by you people out there for us to do a deep dive into our Chaos Knight list. Could have said lists, but really we just play the same list, the one list, the best list, some would say. And it has taken some time, but now we're finally ready to do it. And we prepared some strategy for you and some insights into maps specifically that we played in the recent past. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
So, Chaos Knights. What do we play in Chaos Knights, Lewis?
Yeah. We play the list. The very simple list is 3 data sheets, so not that much, but it's basically the 3 best data sheets you can find in the codex, taken 3 times. There is some variations you can do with demons, and they are acceptable, but in a lot of our tournaments we played recently were team tournaments, and due to us having some very good demons players, we were like, okay, in the original list writing, we're like, okay, let's write a list with just pure knights, no allies, and then we were so trained on this list that we decided, okay, let's also continue to play this in singles to just keep the reps on the same list. And then on the
Exactly.
list,
Mm-hmm.
and
No,
then on the list,
continue.
we have 3 times the spoiler data sheet, 3 times the carnivore data sheet, and 3 times the stalker.
Yeah, exactly. And I think thinking about it now, you mentioned it's possible to sub some demons into this list, right? The most common change is just taking out one stalker and adding some Nurglings, Beasts of Nurgle, Plague Bearers, something like that. There's also the variation where you take out all the stalkers and add in Rotigus. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of the Rotigus variation. I think
Yeah.
the 3 stalkers do more for the list than Rotigus, especially in terms of this early pressure and early trading game. And also
Yes.
having the melters and additional claw attacks helps against, let's say, hard targets.
And also, you don't make yourself more vulnerable to bad maps where Rotigos just isn't available to do anything.
Exactly.
Also...
The variation where you take one stalker out and add in just some demons, I find reasonable. It's perfectly valid if you want to do that. I personally like the non-demon list more, actually. Even if I had the choice, I would just play this variation because, yeah, first of all, I've gotten used to it, and second of all, it just everything works together so well. I don't see a reason to change it out. So, all you guys are asking, how do we play this list? And we prepared a little summary of the playstyle. Lewis, do you want to go through it?
Yeah, sure. The main thing is a lot of people think, okay, hey, Knights is just a pure stat check army and just shove everything in the open and say, hey, you can't kill me. And then those Knight players just die because most meta armies can actually kill you. So the actual main selling point about Knights is the threat projection. Because with how towering works and how the 13-inch movement works, this with most of the maps which are played right now on the map packs, so especially on the BTC maps, on Alpine maps, on GW maps, this 13-inch movement on the spoilers compared to the old 10-inch movement really allows you to turn one, touch those middle runes, and project a lot of threat during the deployment, project a lot of threat from like still your safe positions, and just allow you to really, really just play a board control game.
Yes, exactly. I think this is what most people underrate or forgot is you shouldn't just put your big knight in the open. You can put your big knight in the open and it will take the opponent time to kill it, but you shouldn't just put it there for no reason. It should always be in a position where it's annoying for your opponent to deal with it, and if they don't deal with it, next turn you can do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the second point is then the targeted alpha strike, we called it. And this is, you want to use your speed and your threat to alpha strike your opponent, but you don't just want to remove any resource. You don't necessarily even want to remove their most expensive resource. You want to remove the resource that does the most threat to you. So that might be their anti-tank, that might be melee in certain matchups, it might be a big centerpiece. It really depends on the matchup, but you want to play your all-in turn, usually turn 2 or turn 3. It really depends a bit on the specific matchup, where you go in and remove the thing that will hurt you most in their clapback turn.
Yeah. And also, an important part about that is, due to towering, on most matchups, it's actually possible for you to get the first strike. And that's why we also call it alpha strike. It's like, in almost every WTC map, you just hit first in the shootout. Which is one of the big upsides of this army. Yeah. Then the next point we put out is that, yes, there's still this stat check component that the whole list is tanks. So the only relevant part of the army in the damage trading is actual anti-tank. So for example, if the enemy only says, okay, hey, you only have like 1,200 points of your army, which is irrelevant in the anti-tank game, you can say, hey, I trade 140 points for 100 points, and relatively seen, I have still removed more anti-tank than you have removed in my tank resources. That's why also the trading game is kind of skewed and kind of broken to a certain degree.
Exactly, and I think it's also quite important here to note that if you play knights, you don't have to be afraid of one resource here or one resource there, usually. If I can put my knight in a position where he's perfectly safe, sure. But if I can put my knight in a more aggressive position where maybe one enemy tank can shoot at me, that one enemy tank will not kill my knight. It's very unlikely. So I will say, hey, I will take the more aggressive position where I can project more threat later. And if you want to commit your anti-tank resource to maybe kill my Warlock, and then for sure lose your anti-tank next turn, I take that every time.
Yes.
Yeah. So generally speaking, for this list, of course, this can change depending on the matchup. But the way we usually play it is the Stalkers are the first wave. For that, we have our scout move. We have then the potential of 15-inch movement with Infernal Surge, which makes it 21 inches turn 1. So the Stalkers can really go far turn 1 and force the opponent to react somehow. And not just 5 Marines will kill a Warlock, right? You need to use something that's an actual anti-tank resource to kill the Stalker. Then the Despoilers can pick up those things that showed themselves to kill the Stalkers. And now we have hopefully removed enough anti-tank from the opponent that the Despoilers can now stand very aggressively and the opponent cannot deal with all of them at the same time. Then the Carnivores here, in my example, a little bit unintuitively, because they are the fastest movement knights, are the last wave, because they are the ones that then protect the Despoilers and countercharge stuff that goes into the Despoilers. That's how I usually play. What do you think, Lewis?
Yeah, agree in most matchups. It's just better to really if you have this situation where we talk about first, where it's like, hey, okay, you can maybe shoot one anti-tank piece on this position. I would rather have one anti-tank piece shoot at my Despoiler, because he will survive most one activations. And instead of having, okay, this can shoot at one Carnivore, because those Carnivores are so valuable, because in a late game where it's just a slugfest from the remaining resources, you can't really just tag him and say, hey, this one can't move anymore because it's just a melee knight. Try tagging a melee knight. And the potential of just, hey, this is 6 attacks with sustained hits, d6 plus 2 damage. Theoretically, he has the potential damage to kill almost any single model unit in the game. And that's just so valuable and such a big threat range that just having them here, just having them keeping you alive is way more secure. is way more important.
Yes. Okay, so that's the general playstyle. Now Lewis and I will go into a little bit more detail. First, I will go into these points a little bit more with two of my matches from the recent Münsterland Major, and then Lewis will show you matches from his run at Hanseatic Alliance Open and also the recent Alpine Cup. So first of all, threat projection is the first point here, and that's also the first point I want to talk about. And threat projection begins in deployment. So if I could just deploy freely as I wish, for example, the opponent doesn't have anti-tank or it's not enough anti-tank, something like this, on this specific map, I would put my knights like that, like this. And now you might wonder, okay, how do I know how I want to deploy my knights, right? And for that, you really have to look at where, first of all, where can the despoilers go and how can the despoilers project threat if I go first? Because that is what my opponent has to respect in deployment. What if I put a despoiler like this and I go first? What can the despoiler shoot? Because if my opponent puts a unit that's relevant anti-tank in a usual safe spot that would be safe against any other army, it might not be safe against Chaos Knights. So for that, I have shown a little bit on the next slide where the despoilers from the positions that I deployed here can go. And for example, you can see here the lowermost despoiler can just go straight up 13 inches and shoot very far into the enemy backline. The second despoiler right above that can go touch the middle ruin and basically see everything that's not hidden behind the opponent's blue and pinkish, reddish ruin, whatever. And then the top despoiler can move through the terrain. Unfortunately, cannot touch the blue ruin, but that's not necessary here because this despoiler can then shoot straight down to see everything as well. So if I tell to my opponent during deployment, hey, look, I can put a despoiler here, I can just put a despoiler here, I can put a despoiler here, they can go here, 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 and they can shoot this area. Basically, your safe deployment is very far behind your ruin, and that's all you can do. That projects a lot of threat. I don't actually have to do it, but they still have to respect it during deployment. What do you think, Lewis?
Yeah, that's one of the most important parts from deployment. And especially also one of the things in deployment is you usually want to, you can deploy one of one or two despoilers very early in the deployment, but you always want to keep one as like your last or second to last drop, just to be able to threaten for the opponent, hey, I could still put him here on the line and still put out the pressure if you deploy there, just to make it smaller. And then on some maps, you actually reach the stage where the opponent at some point is like, I actually can't hide all my assets. And then he and if he calculates that before deployment, has to push so much in Deep Strike in reserve that that also doesn't have enough counter pressure turn one if you go first. Or the other case is that at some point he will just have to put some parts slightly leaking out, and you can just offer strike on those parts.
Yes, very good point. And now the thing is, just because I can deploy like that, I don't have to deploy like this. So as Lewis said, you want to start with the pieces that can project threat and still be safe. And in this case, this would be everything sort of in the top of my deployment zone. The two stalkers here in green can scout to safety. The despoiler is pretty safe there. Yes, it can get shot, but usually that means it's if the opponent wants to commit to shooting that despoiler on turn one, they have to deploy unsafely, and it's still not super likely that they will kill the despoiler turn one with 4-win was safe. So that despoiler is safe enough for my taste. Then we have a carnivore. Usually I put carnivores next to all my despoilers just in case I need to heroic turn one. Depends on the matchup, but it's just a good general rule of thumb.
Yeah, we don't want to have 5 scouts just infiltrating, scouting forward, touching the spoiler and saying, no, you don't move today.
Yes. Exactly. So here you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops even with the despoiler counting twice that you can just deploy there without risking too much and already forcing your opponent to deploy some of their units either safely or aggressively depending on what they want to do. Then the second stalker at the very right edge for my deployment zone, actually I would also always put there, yes, it's not going to be safe turn 1. It's also not going to be able to scout to safety, but it can scout to a position where the opponent can't shoot it from their deployment zone if it just scouts forward. And that's already fits into our game plan of the opponent has to commit something, and if they want to do that, that's okay. So basically, the 2 despoilers and the carnivore on the bottom here are the units that I would deploy last in this case, because they are the most vulnerable, so to say. They can be shot from very far away from the opponent's DZ, from a position where I maybe cannot get perfect response. But already I force my opponent to deploy quite a few of their drops. And I always want to keep these spots open in deployment to tell my opponent, hey, I could deploy here still. I could still threaten your field. Now, if I don't want to go all in aggressive, then I can just adjust my last few drops to something like this, where suddenly the spoilers are quite safe. They're not perfectly safe again, but safe enough. And they can still stage into position behind the blue ruin turn 1 if necessary, and then project the same kind of threat turn 2. So this kind of deployment, I think I would then end up with usually, but again, very important during deployment to keep up those options to force your opponent into bad decisions.
Yes.
So that, by the way, was map 1 and 2 in Münster. We played the same map then on Crucible, I think, and the same principle applies there. In general, to this map, I want to say every time you have a large WTC ruin touching a board edge, already very good for knights. Because there you have very good spots where you can put your big knights in almost perfect safety, but they can then project so much threat next turn.
Yes.
Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is how to play against melee matchups, because this is where I see many people make certain mistakes. And this doesn't only go for melee matchups, but let's say all kind of matchups where the opponent will not kill you in a straight shootout, but they want to try to win by getting melee resources into you and especially tagging you. So this was map 4-5, which we played in Münster. I played this against Space Wolves, so very hard melee pressure army with very little shooting. And then I played this also against Dark Angels, which is kind of the same. The Dark Angels had, I think, 2 Gladiator Lancers, which is some relevant shooting, but it's not enough to win the straight shootout. And then it's mostly melee, right? So I had actually in both games, I think, first turn, which helps a lot. And this was basically the, kind of arrangement of knights I chose as my first turn movement. Note, in both of these games, I couldn't kill anything turn 1. These knights didn't kill anything. They just moved into these positions to further my game plan. And what's that? As you can see, Stalkers are the first wave. One of the Stalkers moved on the middle marker, probably had Arena or something, but still just moves there to force the opponent to do something, because otherwise I will score primary. Then I have 2 Stalkers here that were mostly important in the Space Wolves game that basically move block the big Thunderwolf cavalry blocks. And just says you can't get to my big knights with your Thunderwolf. And if you want to commit your Thunderwolf to kill a Stalker, be my guest. And then, most important part, I think, about playing against these melee matchups, and I think that's also something I see many people do wrong, is you have to put your despoilers in positions where they're already touching terrain. They already preemptively have the angles to shoot back at the stuff that the enemy commits to kill your stalkers, because otherwise the enemy will touch or consolidate into, or charge, or whatever your despoilers behind the ruins. If you don't touch the terrain, they will go and move block you or force you in combat behind the ruins where you cannot react with your despoilers. And that's how you can lose these matchups. What do you think?
Yeah, that's one really big important thing. Another thing I also want to add to that is, for example, for staging in this big blue ruins. One thing you might think is, hey, I want to project more threat and I want to actually shove the blue knight on top, for example, wholly into the ruin. Like directly on the wall to have like the maximum amount of pressure I can touch the red ruin next turn. One thing which can happen there, which is like also why in my opinion you always want to leave like enough space for the opponent's base to actually come into the ruin, is that he could string himself out to like make a charge with consolidation. Don't go to actually basing, just like go with an engagement range and tag you from outside of the wall. That's like the worst case can happen, because then the despoiler has to fall back, he can't shoot himself free, and it's like one of the easiest mistakes I've seen some people do. It's like one thing you really want to look out. Never do that. But outside of that, you already touch the runes in melee. He can't, like, if he shoots you with this plasma pistols as a world eater, who knows? I don't care. Whatever. Same for the pistols on the Space Wolves. They can shoot. We really don't care. But for that, like, we already like give ourselves the angles, and it's just way better. It's also one of the reasons why we take those non-blast weapons on the despoilers. Like, I've seen a lot of people say, hey, but look, battle cannon in this and this matchups, it's way better, and it doesn't struggle against -1 damage. Yeah, but then you get tagged and you can't shoot yourself out, or it's just no. Just take the Gatlings, be happy about it, and put yourself in a position where you can already shoot. Because it's one of the biggest like vulnerabilities of Knights is that we lack this fall back and shoot, and we really have to play around not giving us the opening here.
Exactly. You never want to be forced to fall back with the despoiler in an important turn. It's you take away 1/3 of your firepower, right? That's very important to keep in mind. And if you have one turn where the opponent stops you from reacting to their threats with your despoilers, then you might just lose the game just from that. It's really important that you don't have to fall back with your despoilers, and they can always shoot. And this is the way we force that. Like Lewis said, don't get tagged from behind ruins. Don't get tagged in a way where you can shoot back at the important stuff.
Yeah. Last thing, you can't always guarantee it. For example, on this map for the top knight, it's pretty hard because like the openings are too small, but you almost always want to have a way where if the enemy melee unit actually touches you, and it's a melee unit which might be tough enough to actually tag a despoiler for a turn, like for example, a Wraith Squad or something, you still want to keep enough space between the wall and the despoiler for the carnivore or something to, after you shoot in the Wraith Squad, to just also charge in to try to fight you open. It's another big thing you have to look out for.
Yes. So since we have so little units or models, even we have 9 models, it's really important to position all your models efficiently in a way where you can play your next turn without having to do something like falling back, which we really don't like. Okay, so that was 2 examples of general gameplay ideas. Now Lewis has prepared for you 2 very specific games that go into, I guess one is how to play a bad matchup, and one is how to win a winning matchup really high.
Yeah. Right. Basically, the first matchup was played in the Hanseatic Open and was GW Map 6. Also to give us some map variation here. And it was against one of our worst matchups, Eldar. Why is Eldar such a bad matchup? Is usually we force a trading game, and almost no army in the game can actually trade with us because they don't have enough anti-tank resources. Eldar break it via this hopping in, hopping out, and basically having indirect shooting anti-tank with the Fire Dragons and the Wave Serpent, that just kills us. And at the same time, if you give the Eldar the opening, those aspect host lists right now, they have so much damage, they just straight up kill you. So it's for example, in teams, I'm like, okay, hey, if I have a good map, give me anything except Eldar. And here I had the bad case. I had an Eldar player, and it's not like, hey, okay, look, this is one of the bad Eldar players. You just rush him and he dies. This one was against Bellman. one of like, he didn't play this year, but he played like last year for the German WC team, and he kind of knows what he's doing. And on this map, the map actually kind of helped me, because basically, if you see those red lines, those are like the turn 1 line of light signs which he can't block, which really forces his Serpent to go in this bottom left corner, because everything else I can just see with the spoiler, especially also because of the two central blue runes without any terrain on it. One of them is within 8 inches of my DZ, so you can't even infiltrate block it, even though, like you see, it's already this like blue line center. That's like where he put 15 rangers out to just say, hey, you can't scout anything ahead, you can't really walk ahead, because everything will just reactive move. And so I was like, hey, I will still deploy on the line to actually force you to put all the stalkers here, threaten all those angles, force the Serpent there, because I was like, okay, hey, if I go second, I will lose anyways, because the matchup, he will just jail me with his rangers, and then second turn he will play an all-in, kill minimum big knights, maybe even 3, and just table me by turn 3. So the whole thing was, okay, hey, I deploy on the line, I really force him to expose all the rangers to go back in the safe space, because he can't risk me going first, because in the Elder match, like in the Elder thing, still thinks even if I go first, he still should have a winning matchup, which honestly he should still have. So we just do the maximum pressure opening. And then we actually were lucky enough to go first. And if you can go to the next slide.
Yes. I think maybe even you can do it.
Okay.
Maybe not.
I don't see a button for it, but hey.
Okay.
And basically we decided, okay, usually we expect, hey, we push forward here, but actually just step backward. Basically we measured out, hey, Serpent in maximum, it moves 21 inches, disembarks 3 inches, and then shoots another 18. Yeah, sure, if he exposes the Serpent and gives me the anti-tank resource for just shooting 2 long-range melters, that's fine. But we measure out all the short-range melters with the 18 inches and just say, hey, our spoiler is far back enough so we can't shoot it from the safe position. It can kill those rangers for free from here. We stage up the Carnivore, we kill both of the other rangers for free, and we actually put up the Stalker here. And now we're like in a position where he lost 3 units already. We start with the indirect, and his Serpent is in a position where it's so far back, it can't shoot anything, even if you wanted to expose everything for the first turn. And so we actually achieved basically the really good like safe position. And then if we go to the next slide, he kills my top Stalker. I put him on my expansion objective with the Lycus squad, which is already really good for me, because Lycus is one of the biggest damage multipliers for Eldar, and just trading that out already for 1 anti-tank resources, like, thank you. This is a really good trade for me. And I yield 1 Stalker away, and he will basically have like the one situation where he can actually play against the Serpent. Because yes, he can develop the Serpent, put it slightly ahead, but we have this bottom position with the spoiler where he threatens all the bottom lane and all the top lanes where the Serpent could develop himself to. But at the same time, if you measure the distance between the rune where this Carnivore, the spoiler is back there, and the Serpent rune, it's 24 inches away. And 24 inches in this case is a magical number, because an aspect host Serpent only moves 21, can disembark 3, so it's impossible for him to touch the spoiler here. At the same time, the spoiler touches everything where the Serpent could go. So here we have like the perfect position, no mobility for the Serpent. We can continue to just say, hey, the 2 top spoilers to clear everything he pushes in the center. And at the same time, the top spoiler is in a safe position from the bottom Serpent, and can threaten to touch his big rune, which is like on the top of in his DZ with his 13 inches. So he has to suicide 1 5-1 squad there every single turn just to block me from touching the rune. And so there's another resource drain. So he's down 3 rangers, has to suicide 1 5-man drop to not kill his whole staging in there. And at the same time, we play Scorched Earth. In Scorched Earth, the magic thing here is the center point. If you measure it out from the Serpent, from like to my Stalker, or whatever water I put there, and it's like I ended up every single turn putting one Stalker in there, or
Mhm.
with Stalker and then later the Carnivores there. Just say, hey, I declare burn. And so declare burn is it's outside of 24 inches from the Serpent safe position, so you can't shoot with small melters. Sure, you can if you spend 1 CP, which is again resource drain. You can shoot the 2 long range melters like Fuig and the Exarch outside of the melter range. Sure, that happens. But okay, you can spend 1 CP for that, but at the same time, you always have to invest something. And the problem is, if you just shoot 2 long range melters, you already traded away Lycus. What is even left there as reliable anti-tank resources? So in actuality, he has to put enough OC on there to flip 7 OC every single time. And one of those, for example, was like, hey, you put all your Storm Guardians there. Hey, you have to put 2 Aspect Host units there. Like, it drains so much resources.
Yes.
And then even then, in one time, like was from Battleground 3, one of my Stalkers actually survived the 2 long range melters and like his OC stuff. And he still flipped the mark, but so was like, I live on 3. I will just run forward now, run your DZ, and just tank shock and melee 5 Hawks to death.
Yeah.
Happens. And with this position, we created a safe spot. We draw him out. He basically only activate like turn 4 when he just all his remaining stuff. He only activated just like his real squad for his first time, but also just flip my center objective. And I never lost a single big knight in this game. Could always clear everything in there. Always flipped his side objective, always threatened to burn the center, held my side objective all the time, burned it in the end, and just got a very clean 13-7 out of here, which is like, if you think about it, is like basically a miracle in the Elder matchup.
Yes, it is. It really is. And I think it really shows here again how you can use your threat projection to control where your opponent's resources that could kill you can go. And then you invest your Stalkers in a way where, yes, the opponent can easily kill them, no problem, but not without exposing resources. And yeah, very well done. And very nice that we can show, hey, we can beat Elder if we have to with Chaos Knights.
It's still not easy, but it's possible.
Still not easy, but possible. All we have to do is go first. Come on.
Yeah, it's easy. It's like 50-50 to get like a small win, or otherwise just get 0-20, but it's fine.
In singles, that's what you have to do. So, yes. What else have you got for us?
Yeah, the other one is a team matchup. And in this team matchup here, we had the thing where basically we played against King of the Hills, which was reinforced with some Belgian mercenaries.
Yes.
And so we're like, okay, hey, against Liam, our team's probably gonna have one 0-20. And
it happens.
We had 2 other not that great matchups in the Matrix. So we're like, okay, hey, we have 2 good matchups, me into demons and our demons into their Eldar. We really have to press the 20-0 here. And here the basic idea was, I even got matchup, and the basic idea is the 2 blue runes in the center, I can touch both of them, and at the same time, the blue runes, both of them are both within 8 inches of my DZ. So he can't block it off with Infiltrate. So it's really, really bad for him to like put anything safe. Like his only safe deployment zone is like in behind his blue DZ rune, and even then he has to also at the same time use the 18-inch Lone Orb Be'lakor aura to not like with like a Nurgling block, which is like the bottom of the 2 green lines here, which is like, okay, you have to invest in Nurglings, and then at the same time use Lone Orb to then not get deleted turn 1. And even at the same time, you don't have enough space back there. So so he is actually forced to put one of his 4 big demons. In this case, he put out the Great and Clean one.
Yeah.
Still, he can't defend that for sure. Okay, hey, I force a stat check here. 3 big. You can shoot with like this is most of his army. I can't melee him because there's one Nurgling line in the center, which like I can still touch the rune, but blocks me moving over.
Yep.
And so I go like, okay, hey, I still accept this. 3 despoilers into Great and Clean one. It's kind of iffy if they actually kill him. If he activates the reroll once for his info, I basically never kill it, but then he can't pick anything up in his oils. That's a win for me if he can't pick up, so he doesn't get mobility. So he basically can't do that. And if you do the math, basically the Great and Clean one should live on 2 hit points. But in this case, I decided, okay, hey, I still take for it. In the end, it's rolling dice. We still cripple him, and we can, if we kill it, it's just a huge upside. So I said, hey, okay, we deploy you super aggressive on the line. Even if he goes first here, by the way, yes, he can tackle the spoilers with one Nurgle unit. The bottom Nurgle unit is actually too far away, and he can only realistically tag one, because the other one I could just, if he tries to like string out tag both, I can just reroll with the Stalker, and I might not kill all 3, but I usually kill like around 2 with the spoiler melee and the Stalker melee, and then I'm like free with 1 at least. The Great and Clean one, even though he deploys on the line, is too far away to actually realistically have like a good possible charge. Maybe if he rolls a 6 on the advanced charge, pops the CP, and then he doesn't have a charge reroll, then he might be able to tag 1. But even Great and Clean one against Arm of Contempt doesn't kill a big knight, and then it's like a free kill if he is staying next to me.
Yes.
So yeah, I was lucky. I got first turn, and so we pushed a bit forward. If you
next
put the next slide.
Yeah, we push forward a little bit.
We push forward. Yeah, we push. And so basically the idea here is we have to think about, okay, he can put up, and realistically he has 1 really good anti-tank resource. His only realistic anti-tank resource is the Bloodthirster with the extra damage enhancement, with like the really big eggs, with like 9 attacks, with like I kill 1 big knight. Even though, by the way, that one is still like, on average,
5
he gets the big knight on 5 of invul. He gets the big knight down to down to the 4 hit points, and then has to use the end of 5 face mortals to finish it off. So like it's an exact clean kill if he doesn't spike anything, or also I don't spike anything. So it's pretty risky, but that's basically the one big threat I have, was to pick up and then 6-inch drop the blood first, and then just hit the 6-inch charge. That's for me the threat. So basically the idea is to build up a cordon, or with the small knights, was like, hey, you can 6-inch drop the small knights, but you can't 6-inch drop the big knights.
Yes.
And at the same time, we put all 3 despoilers onto the line with Guru, and then we use our Stork in the center to just charge ahead and say, hey, we will only go as far as long as allow him. So there is theoretically 1 possible charge on the first despoiler with the Bloodthirster, but he would have to multi-charge both the Stalker and the despoiler. So then I would also get free melee from the Stalker into the Bloodthirster. He does that. And at the same time, it's not a 6-inch charge on the spoiler. It was more like around, I think it was an 8-inch charge or so. So still a bit too risky for him to realistically threaten his only anti-tank resource.
Yes.
So I ended up pushing forward. Actually, really clutch. On the last rocket, I use a damage reroll 2 into a 6, which on average, still with the 4 extra damage, does against his 4 Phenopane, cleanly kills the Guru, and it's like, okay, we kill one of his big ones. We have the pressure. From this point to the spoiler, they can go down, so he can't really still see the expansion objective of him. So he can put maybe some small stuff into expansion, but he can't put a big one in there. And at the same time, he also still has to be like really far back if he wants to shoot with his bird to like keep the 18 inches.
Yes.
Then we also kill the bottom Nurglings, and we just, hey, we're happy here. Then he says, okay, basically I put 1 piece of Nurgle forward to block out the spoilers, touching really, really good the red rune, because from here I could only touch the frontal part of the red rune, and try to shoot the Stalker back from long range. One thing here, actually, because at the beginning I joked a bit around with him. Usually should just always pick the -1 to hit out of 18, but it was okay. He only has 1 gun, so we troll a bit and we rolled the dice. Actually, we still rolled the -1 to hit out of 18, so it was basically the same as having picked in the end.
Yeah.
And so, cause for a safe space to say as of 18-inch lone up with the spoiler counting punching, he had to shoot off 18. So it was a bird with -1 to hit against the Stalker. And if you calculate it through, the Stalker actually survives, which he also did on 6 hit points. And so I was okay, hey, I can push forward now. I get a free kill for the Beast of Nurgle, and his basic idea is now, hey, next turn I yeet the Plague Bearers or the Horrors, something forward, and he actually tries to develop himself, get some points. I'm like, hey, I need to have maximum pressure here. And if you put it to the next slide, basically the idea here is, okay, hey, we put one Despoiler behind this container, behind the wall, so like it's really hard for him to charge him, and like his shooting is irrelevant in the sense of his spoilers. The Carnivore still section screen him, and like, yeah, you can charge the Bloodthirster into a Carnivore. I don't care. And we put the Stalkers forward. One of those Stalkers, by the way, actually already does recover assets in his DZ on turn 2.
Nice.
And the other Stalker also screens at the top. Where at the same time, with the one Carnivore here, we declare burn against Scorched Earth. I really love Scorched Earth. And so it forces engagement on my side objective. Otherwise, I can just score 5 points. And with the 16-inch by Stalker, we're like, hey, you can actually kill this for free next turn in shooting. So might as well just yeet it in. And there was his Be'lakor there, with just me marked with a red B. And he already suffered 3 mortars from the explosion of the Great Unclean One.
Nice.
And we were like, okay, just yeet him in. Tank shock, no Melter goes through, but here, 2 saves from the Claw. With a reroll, he actually managed to make one, otherwise Be'lakor would probably have died. And so Be'lakor is on 6 hit points.
Yep.
He, of course, kills my Stalker back, but we're like, okay, now Be'lakor is basically a free kill. At the same time, he had to use a reroll, so again, no pickup for him. And so he's basically here, okay, I can 16 Sheep Strike some stuff from reserve, but I can't pick up any of the big knights, and he basically has to spend an advance and charge CP to get to the Despoiler in the center. And the Despoiler here he really has to deal with it, because otherwise the Despoiler touches his home field objective, looks into his staging rune, and just deletes everything.
Yes.
And at the same time, both the other Despoilers are basically untouchable for him. And yeah, I force the all-in from him here now. So again, the same thing we taught. It's an all-in. It's on our terms. We already we killed the Guru, we killed the Nurglings, we killed the Beast of Nurgle. So most of it's just cheap tagging resources already gone. And Be'lakor's already half dead, and he only has the Bloodthirster as a relevant piece left.
Yes.
To make matters way worse for Grisha, Be'lakor actually fails the Battle Shock test. Yes, demons also have the leadership characteristic, and due to that, fails his 5-inch charge afterwards because he can't charge reroll. But in the end, it was it wouldn't really have mattered that much anyways. But it was the thing in the end, and he really has to charge his Bloodthirster into my Despoiler. He manages this charge, and if we go into the next slide, we see, hey, he kills my Despoiler, but at the same time, he had to move the charge to the Stalker. Stalker, free activation, +1 to wound, because I didn't have any friends to move in 6, and already does 8 damage. So we have a Bloodthirster here down to 10, and with Be'lakor down to 6. At the same time, we have Horrors on a home field on a side objective, and we have the bird and the how they're called Plague Bearers on his home field objective.
Yep.
He also at the same time was like, hey, I 6-inch Sheep Strike my second Plague Bearer unit on your expansion objective, and to cancel my burn, declare burn on myself. So I'm like, okay, hey, actually, I leave you the Plague Bearers there, because if they burn it, they don't score normal primary anymore, and up to this point, you only score 10 points, so you're down to 15, and that will be your last primary for the game, basically. So I'm like, hey, that's acceptable. We will in the end get a 35 differential on the primary, and I pushed you so far in, we get enough differential on the secondary also.
Yep.
And then you think, okay, hey, and what is the priorities here? We have to flip the Horror objective, we have to flip the Be'lakor, and we have to flip the Bloodthirster. And it's top of 3. Be'lakor is Battle Shock, so we're like, hey, +1 to wound. +1 to wound against Be'lakor now, against Battle Shock targets. We walk over the Spoiler to just clear the Horrors, because actually clearing those Horrors is more important than clearing the 2 big knights, because, yeah, sure, you can maybe kill, if I whiff with the other Spoiler, and also the Carnivore melee, you can kill my big ones. I don't care. But it's way more important to keep your primary down and kill all your scoring. So we kill the Horrors on the side. with the top of the spoiler, we tag his Lord of Change. And in the middle of the spoiler, we're like, okay, rockets and one Gatling into the Bloodthirster, other Gatling into the Be'lakor. We actually spike and kill both. Otherwise, we will still have like Carnivore melee to finish both off. But
Yeah.
now we don't have the risk of Carnivores because holy shit, are Carnivores inconsistent. Like,
Yes.
I have seen Carnivores kill God and whiff on like
Yep.
and whiff on Chimeras. Okay, I've had
Yeah,
both.
one hit regularly.
Yeah, it's the hitting on threes with sustains had made it so much more volatile. It's,
Yes.
yeah, and so basically we kill both. The Stalker, because we shoot it free, can now also charge the Plague Burst on the home field. Both Stalkers, one of them will get the +1 lead OC from this one of the spoilers. Gets 13 OC on there, flips his home field actually.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we kill horrors, we kill home field, we tag your last resources. We actually all just kill the bird, but it doesn't matter because the bird won't have scored any points anymore. And so we're like, hey, even though you're an RP Downey army, which has like all the mobility, we pressure you in so much, we force you all in because otherwise we just clear your home field, kill everything, and you can't pick away everything. So we force everything in, we kill him, force a stat check, draws one thing, the anti-tank resource, then kill it so he doesn't have any counterpunch anymore. And yeah, in the end, you have 10 Plague Birds just stranded on the burned expansion on the top left. Oh, and you have 1 unit of dogs, which you picked up turn 1.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. They will drop in turn 4, turn 5, do 1 more locust, do 1 more behind. But it's not enough to like get the differential up anymore. And so
Yes.
we really push in the 20 OD.
Yeah, very nice. And I think it really is a combination of all the gameplay principles we like showed earlier. It's first you start with threat projection, then you have your stalkers as the first wave. You force your opponent to either commit anti-tank on the stalkers or not deal with the stalkers. Both cases are fine. And then we aggressively project our threat forward up to the point where the opponent can't do anything anymore except for go all in a bad way that's bad for them, and then you can pick it up. And yeah, really nice example of how to 20-0 a already winning matchup. Well done, Lewis.
Yeah,
yeah, do you have anything else you want to add in terms of general terms?
I mean, we talked about most of the important stuff for Knights. I mean, maybe our matches.
I was going to say maybe we can speak about the army rule briefly. Which ones to pick, because that's something that I guess the question I get more often than not. And I think a good general rule of thumb is if the opponent has relevant shooting, the -1 to hit outside of 18 or Battle Shock is never bad.
Yeah, that's always the one pick. Also, one thing about that relevant shooting, don't do the mistake and say like, hey, Emperor's Children, the Blast Masters, they're really bad. They only have 18-inch range, so sadly it doesn't help there. But yeah, against every shooting matchup, just always pick the -1 hit. Then second principle I always abide by is if the enemy has an actual leadership mechanic. Like for example, Black Templars. They want the full hit rolls from the Castellan to be able to actually push out the damage. And it's the rule from Castellan is, hey, I take leadership test. So having an aura of -2 leadership is just beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, testing on 8 compared to testing on 6 is a really big difference. It might not sound that big at first, but if you actually look at the distribution of the 2d6, failing a 6 with 2d6 is about 25%-ish. Probably more like 23 or 28, but around 25. But then if you flip it to an 8, it's basically on the other side of the center. So suddenly passing it is 25%. Right? So that's a huge difference where he has a 3 times worse chance to pass that test if you give them -2 leadership. So really important. And also works against, for example, when the Accursed Cultist spam was relevant, there was a lot of leadership mechanics there. Demons, funnily enough, in this matchup, they really like their Battleshock test because they can heal themselves if they pass it. Not so much with the -2 leadership. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of things where it can be relevant.
Yeah. Actually, also one other matchup which I have played 2 times in Alpine was actually the Recon matchup. Recon, you think, hey, one time was actually a very almost a 1-to-1 copy of the Nemo list, and the other one was almost a 1-to-1 copy of the French list from WTC.
Yes.
And the French list were like, hey, it has 2 Dorns. Those Dorns can shoot more than 18 inches, so picking -1 to hit out of 18 would be the correct choice, right?
You'd think so?
Not really, because realistically, the Dorn only really does damage if he gets within range to shoot his melters. Otherwise,
Yes.
it's like, oh no, whatever. So he will also realistically only really shoot within 18. And there, the actual go-to is, for example, testing under starting strength. Because one important thing what you might think, hey, giving -2, so they test on 9s would be really nice, yeah? Sadly, doesn't work because
not if you can read.
Yeah, because sadly the rules is basically if you have modifiers for leadership tests, that those can force it to like a 9 or worse. But if you force it because we modify the leadership characteristic, those at worst can be 8 or can only be 8 at worst. So there we can't get more from the minus leadership, and getting those testing under starting strength was like, hey, you have those 20 men, for example, one of those bricks which doesn't regenerate, for example, the Catachan brick. I mortar one guy away. Now you battle shock. Now you don't hit your save order anymore. So suddenly, even if I don't shoot the ignore cover spoiler, you still only save on 5s, even in double cover. And that's like also one, for example, where like it's really good to choose something.
Yes.
And then I think the last general part we have is for melee matchups. And what would you pick in melee matchups?
I mean, it depends, I guess, on the melee matchup, right? Oftentimes in melee matchups, well, it depends. I think if it's an army that has leadership mechanics, still you take the -1 leadership.
Yeah, but like for example, like World Eater Horde or something like that.
Even against World Eater Horde, -1 leadership might be relevant because then you can force Battleshock tests and shooting and stop them from blood searching. So might not be the best example.
Okay. Anyway, Custodes. Okay, just no leadership mechanic and just normal. Custodes kind of glad. Custodes without the tanks.
Custodes without tanks. I think at that point I probably just roll the dice. What do you think?
To be fair, for melee matchups where it's not relevant we don't have relevant over 18 shooting, we don't have leadership mechanic, and I actually also started just rolling the dice because a lot of those mechanics are just straight up good. Yes, we have the bad dice roll of then hitting the -1 to hit out of 18, but it's then still -1 to hit if you're battle shocked. And sometimes your melee units are battle shocked. And you just have to like more of those buffs active, and then you say, hey, for melee, usually I don't pressure melee in that fast. I only go like force in the round 2 or round 3. So you can say, hey, for example, I rolled, for example, mortal wounds and minus leadership. And then I say, hey, now take it within 12 inches on my round 3, force with a lot of battle shocks, and then you take mortars everywhere. Like there's a lot of stuff which you can like with a slightly slower game, which usually happens in melee, and then like forcing and then like just picking the third combination. I think rolling is actually a viable strategy.
Yes. As you said, none of the buffs are really bad, right? Even something like +3-inch aura, which at first seems like kind of meh. I mean, having a 12-inch aura of -1 leadership, and then since you rolled it, you might also have to test Battle Shock if under starting strength. In 12 inches, that's quite a lot. Or if you get +1 to wound against Battle Shock units, everyone randomly fails a Battle Shock here and there, and then suddenly you get +1 to wound against their Gilliman or something, right? It can happen, and it can be really impactful. So none of the buffs are really bad. I think the most frequently picked one is the -1 to hit outside of 18. That should be your go-to if the enemy has relevant shooting. And then -1 leadership, extra -1 leadership, or test below stunning strength if it makes sense in a matchup. And if none of these are really like great, just roll the dice. It can't really be bad.
Yeah. One thing which also actually interesting in if you play Knight Mirror, for example, I have picked also multiple times the +1 to wound if I went first. Because I was like, hey, I'm going to pressure you in so much that you're like, I pressure you in first turn so much, I force battle shocks, for example, with the stratagem, and just say, hey, +1 to wound for my Gatlings, silently wound you on force.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that
it's
was
not as
more
relevant, and that was
Yeah.
more the thing when you played Triple Abominant.
Yes.
But it's still a thing, for example, which I also like took as my second pick in the mirror or something like that.
Yes. I think in the mirror nowadays, I would always pick -1 to hit outside of 18, especially against the spoiler list, because that really changes
the
the
spoiler
master of
mirror, you
spoilers.
need it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's how we would pick the buffs. And I guess there's so many things more that we could talk about with Knights, but it's been now an hour, and I think we can end it here. But please, if you guys have more questions, put them in the comments. Don't forget to hit the bell, subscribe, do all the things, go to our Instagram, go to our, I don't know, Pulos OnlyFans. No.
Ooh. The GC content over there.
If you meet us at tournaments, come say hi. We're always happy to meet new people. And yeah, hope you guys have a great day. And I'll see you around. Bye-bye.
Ja, see ya. Goodbye.
Das war's mit dieser Folge von Zugzwang. Wenn es dir gefallen hat, abonnieren, kommentieren, teilen. Ihr kennt das Spiel. Folgt uns auf Instagram, YouTube und Spotify unter @Zugzwang40k.